it tended to be birthday parties, quite drunken birthday parties, and the Scalextric would come out. We got our first year funded, which was amazing. So we went into this knowing that if nobody ever turned up, we wouldn't be out of pocket. The family legend is that as I was being born in hospital, at home was my dad, my older brother and older sister playing Scalextric.
Hello! You are listening to Talking Utter Slot, the podcast about having fun with toy cars. I'm Scott, and this week I'm joined by a friend, someone I've met through going to the Worthing Club, Andy Player.
Hello, Scott.
Hi, thanks for joining me. So that was a very brief introduction in the sense that I think it was 2 years ago I finally worked up the courage to drive down to the coast and come and visit what's branded as Worthing HO Club. Even though
Yes.
I don't do HO, but we'll get into why that's the case later. And my curiosity was because of digital, and you very cleverly but very kindly were running a kind of open evening for people who didn't know anything about digital to come along, or didn't know anything about slot cars even, to come along and have a go and get to know how to do it. And I got hooked because you put me with somebody who was really good, and I won a medal. So that was it. I was absolutely. But as a kind of that's how I kind of most recently got to know you, and that's what really sparked me asking you to come on and talk about it, because I think what you guys do down at Worthing is quite interesting. I've been to a lot of clubs, mostly in the UK, but some foreign ones, and they're all different. They've all got their own character, but they're also all kind of the same. And if I can oversimplify that, is to say it's kind of the same bunch of people coming every week doing kind of the same thing every week, whereas what you're doing down there seems different. So we'll hopefully come on to that. But before that, do you want to give us a quick kind of potted history of how Andy got into slot cars in the first place?
Okay. I think I was quite lucky. The family legend is that as I was being born in hospital, at home was my dad, my older brother and older sister playing Scalextric on Sunday morning. I don't know if that's true or not, but Scalextric was definitely a very important part of my family that I was born into. There was loads of stuff from the first rubber track set that my dad had bought, and they'd added that to that through the 60s. So by the time that I came along, half the loft I think was taken up with various buildings, a couple of crates of track, loads of cars. And my earliest memories, no doubt, are the smell of those motors, the overheating hand controllers, and stuff like that. It's a smell that is just really nostalgic for me. Brings back great memories. So I think the track came out at Easter. At some point over the summer holidays. My elder siblings had moved out by the time that I was at primary school, and then I wanted to play more and more and more. So the attic got taken up with tracks, I guess right the way through, probably until I left home at 16, 17. Scalextric was a really important part of my life. The old stuff and whatever was coming out in that year's catalogue.
Fantastic. So basically, it was always there for you in a sense.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah,
and
motorsport as well. I guess the track came out at Easter because we usually went up to Silverstone at Easter. I think it was Easter, to go to the international trophy race there. Both my dad, he'd run a local motor club, and my older sister, all her working life was in the motor trade, and hence at weekends going along to whatever races her company at the time were involved with, and I got dragged along quite a lot. So yeah.
So it was a 360 indoctrination, basically. Big cars, small cars, yeah.
big cars, small cars, and also living about 10 miles away from Dagenham as well. So yeah, road cars as well.
Road cars, right? Okay. So
Yeah.
so obviously you're a Ford man then, I'm guessing, unless you've rebelled.
I'm thanks to my dad buying an Alfa Junior when I was 6. I will be forever an Italian car man. So yes.
Wow, there's probably a whole different subject to go of being an Alpha fan living close to Ford's biggest factory in
Yeah,
Britain. So
no,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, that. Um, so again, so that's how did it continue? Again, obviously, so we all sort of move on, get older, etc., and
Yes,
other things take up our time.
yes.
So did you sort of leave it to one side and come back to it? How
Yeah.
did we get to the stage where you were sort of
At, at,
involved in
so-
the
at
club?
some point, everything got put in the loft, and it absolutely stayed there until yeah, my parents broke up the family home when I was in my late 20s, and then a box. Only a small box. A lot of stuff must have been given away or taken to the dump, which is a bit tragic. But most of the cars that I'd bought as a kid came along, and I bought myself a new set. Um, so yeah, I guess yeah, I was 29, 30, something like that. And yeah, me and a bunch of friends in Brighton. It tended to be birthday party, quite drunken birthday parties, and the Skeleton ship would come out, which was very different to how we used to race it when I was a child. Yes.
Okay. Well, can you remember what that set was that you could have restarted
That
with?
I bought. It was a classic track. It was a rally track, a rally set. It was a Colin McRae Ford, I think, and a Subaru
Okay,
in
right.
there.
Okay,
So
we can sort of picture that in time. So,
yeah,
so then obviously, I said the club, clubs dot about, and I think I've said before, but it bears repeating that the internet and sort of the forums were a fantastic thing from my point of view because I'd always had Skeletrix, as you say, in the loft, in the cupboard, push the furniture back at the weekend, whatever, or bank holiday sometimes. But that was about it. And then through internet forums 20 odd years ago, discovered that there were these things called slot car clubs and that you could go along and sort of play with other people, as it were, which was a kind of huge thing to do, but it was a great thing to do as well. But until that point, it never even dawned on me to look for something like that. And that's a whole other level of the hobby, isn't it? Once you meet more people, and there's we get to talk to each other. And I've used that terrible spread, the hobby. That's a pound in the swear bucket. Anyway. What? So if you can wind this forward to then, because obviously
yes,
and again, the Whirling Club takes place in this beautiful hall. I mean, it's a sort of, I don't know how you describe the hall, but it's an old, or it seems very old, wood
yes,
beams, sort of
yes.
flint walled hall. It's fantastic. Couldn't be more English setting if
No,
it
no.
tried, could it? So wind me forward to how you got to be involved with that.
Well, I was then in my early 40s, so yeah, we're moving on over a decade, and I have no idea really how it happened. Um, but I got chatting to a guy on a forum. For some reason, I'd looked at sort of HO cars, um, and I'd seen Derby's 24-hour race that they held every year, and I just thought, wow. And I started actually with the guy that I started the club with, Robin. He dragged me along to the local Brisker Club in Brighton, which is just completely different to anything that I'd ever done before. And I quite enjoyed it. And I have to say, it was a really friendly club. It was never going to be a big club because where they met was pretty pokey, to be honest. But it was, I think that sort of put a seed, you know, this could be fun. And Robin was keen to set up an HO club where he was moving to, which was Goring. A friend of theirs knew a really great venue, which was the church hall, the barn. And he wanted a bit of help. So I said, yeah, right. And we met up quite a few times. We decided we were going to do it. Back in those days, the local council had quite a sizable office and probably a dozen staff that were dedicated to sort of community development. I don't think there's anything there now. So we were really lucky with timing. They took us in hand, talked us through what we needed to do, asked us lots of really good questions about what we wanted our club to be. And again, I think we had an idea that we wanted it to be community-based, family-friendly. But those sorts of questions were great in terms of laying out what we needed to do in terms of the structure of the club. We got our first year funded, which was amazing. So we went into this knowing that if nobody ever turned up, we wouldn't be out of pocket. We would have quite a lot of HO track, but that was all right. But yeah, we wouldn't be out of pocket. It was absolutely no risk venture. So we could just throw ourselves into it, spend a bit of money on publicity and all that. And yeah, I mean, the rest really, it's just happened. And yes, it has required at certain times quite careful sort of stewardship, and Robin actually stepped away 3 years into sort of the project, and then I guess 7 years after that we had the pandemic. Those were probably the two most difficult sort of times for the club. But I think that cornerstone always was that we met in a public place, so we couldn't have a permanent track. So we decided that we would set up a different track every month. And we wanted to go out and be part of the community. And I think those two things really, I think, have created what we have now, which is quite an accessible club, a club where you can race for not a lot of money. You can turn up and you can race, and you can win medals without having to buy a car.
Yes,
and you're absolutely right. I mean, our Who medals, we don't just give them away. You have to earn them.
Well, maybe, yeah, you have to be in a team that earns them. I would go.
Yeah, but that I think we gathered that quite early on, that sort of team racing, it's just such a fantastic way of introducing people to club racing. It means you've got that support. Your teammates can't just let you sink, because that's their evening ruined as well. So the support, the camaraderie is there, and yeah, you can turn up for the first time and you go home with a medal. And as you say, you are hooked at that point. And even if you're not in the winning team, you can see that some other guy that has turned up for the first time has gone home with a medal, and you want that to be you next time. So it's sort of sets the atmosphere, the fun. It's not an elite bunch of guys that are always winning, and yeah.
How did you just rewind back? How did you get what was the decision to go HO? What was because that's?
I think because we were both quite interested. We had links. There was a national sort of series at the time. So there was something there. It was cheap as well. I mean, we could set up a 4-lane club track. I can't remember how much we spent. I mean, we spent a fair amount on equipment. But I think when we looked at what it would cost, even for Scalextric track, which is not that expensive per piece, we could build a huge HO track for half the cost of really a bit of a uninspiring Scalextric track that you probably could set up in a large conservatory. We wanted something that you couldn't do at home, um, and we succeeded in that. But also the cars at the time as well. You could pick up a ready to race HO car, Tomey car in the UK, I think for 12 quid, and you then spent a couple of quid to put some silicon tyres on the back, and that's what we raced. So that made things very accessible in terms of cost. And a dad and a lad could come along and race for £5 for a night, and 15 years later they still can. So there's not a lot you can do for that, is there? Really,
it is. Yeah, it is an amazing. It is amazingly good value, and I think I remember the first time I went to the club, which was Liphook Club, which was a wood routed 4-lane track. And I think that when you first encounter, certainly for me, but I think it's true for most folk, when you first go from however big your living room is, or how you built a track at home, when you go into a club and there's this huge setup and long streets and cars are going fast, it's a kind of wow, this is just amazing. And I think that impact is always huge. And again, I haven't been to one of the HO nights. I probably should. That should be my next indoctrination, shouldn't it? But I think when you come down now and you've got the Scalextric track for the digital racing, the layouts are huge. I mean, it's you genuinely can. Looking from one end to the other is just about possible for us older ones. But the migration then from. When did you introduce? Because you still do the HO stuff, obviously. But when we
do.
Yeah.
So I mean, we started off doing HO the first Wednesday of every month, and then we worked with Scalextric to do some micro Scalextric team races, which is where we discovered team races in the school holidays, and we're back to now doing the HO just once a month, because the rest of our time, we're doing digital and slot rally. The digital started in 2014. One of our HO racers, Mike, was really into digital. I'd never been convinced by it, to be honest. It seemed a bit like a model railway to me, with sort of points. No, it didn't really hook me. But we went round to Mike's and we had some fun. But then he hooked up his power base to a computer and software. And I just thought, wow, this is something that I want to do, because the strategy that it introduces, just the complexity, it becomes far more like real, live racing, apart from not being in the car. It was just brilliant. It was just absolutely brilliant. And Mike agreed, and we did a couple of races at the barn, and it worked fantastically. I mean, I think it probably took us 5 years to get things exactly where we wanted them to be. And it was at that point, it was still using a lot of mostly Mike's stuff. I think more of us have put stuff in. So, we have exactly what we want, which is the old Scalextric power base and RCS 64, that's right, which is the software that infuriates many a newcomer with the grip completely disappearing when the rains come, and so on and so forth. It's not easy, but it is quite exciting. It's very, very different.
It's bamboozling. I think that's the polite word for it. It's I think I was very lucky, because that first time I came quite well, and then I came for some of the races, and I think it was one or two of them were just by chance, because you select weather randomly, don't you?
Oh, we do, yes.
And but they were dry, so the cars were. So I was well committed by the time weather came along, and didn't really give it much thought. And it really was as if someone else was driving the car. It was
absolutely,
and it took a long time for the only similarity I can give it to anybody who hasn't done it, and I'm maybe unusual that I hadn't touched digital apart from once, but hadn't really touched digital before coming to the club. It's that patting your head and rubbing your tummy and reciting
It
the
is.
alphabet backwards thing.
Yeah.
You've got to give up doing what you remembered. But it is good. I'm always fascinated as well because if I'm coming off all the time, and you speak to a teammate who are always remarkably supportive, and they said, and I'm talking about, I said, every time I brake, the car accelerates and it flies off. They said, yeah, well, I don't brake, and I kind of almost turned and looked at them, well, you don't brake. So yeah, it was trying to relearn how to do these things. So I mean, that's again to paint a picture for those who can't imagine it. So you walk into this very old hall. There's a huge track set up. There's usually somewhere between sort of 25, 30 people. You divide them into teams, roughly, six teams of roughly, 4 or 5, depending. And it's a mixture of, and you rank the drivers as sort of gold, silver, bronze.
Yeah.
The gold guys are the good ones. And so that each team is, again, there's a kind of balance of performance going on.
Yeah.
And then the races are 2 hours long, so it's with pit stops and you can change tyres and all that sort of thing, change virtual tyres.
Yes.
And again, I was telling some of the guys from my Farnborough club, which is a more traditional kind of, it's analog 4-lane, races last about 2 minutes. And you move on to the next lane and you have another race, etc. So it's a whole evening, but it's a different kind of evening. And I said, well, you'll be driving for maybe 20-minute stints at Worthing. I was something said, I couldn't do that. And you think, you just drive for 20 minutes. And the first couple of times, it does feel like it's this, what time's going on. So again, one of the things, you posted a comment recently about, and that's just where the real success, you said, I think it was you were assimilating the data for July, was it?
Yes, last month.
Yeah, the number of people and the number of new, just if you can remember what that was roughly, just to kind of give everybody the feeling for it.
We had 60 people race. I was just looking through it, and I thought that was it impressive? I don't know. It stood out to me as a particularly good month. I mean, 22 of those people were visitors for our Slot Rally GB event. I don't include you, I think, in that 22. But the other 38, if my maths is correct, were people from the club and newcomers. I think last month, was it 6 or 7 people we had race for the very first time at the club, which is something we do. I mean, we advertise the club as much as we can, but we concentrate on the beginning of the year and then the summer, because those, I think, are the 2 times of the year when people are looking for something new to do. The summer often with kids. But yeah, the beginning of the year, sort of New Year's resolutions, or, wives or partners subtly saying, you need to find yourself something to do of an evening sort of thing. And that seems to work quite well for us. And it's a nice sort of feed into the club twice a year. A few extra people is always good. But yeah, across that figure of 60 was across an HO race where we had 28 people race, which is a good solid number for us. An introductory digital night, like the first one you came along to, where we have a slightly different crowd. There's a lot of overlap, but we have a slightly different crowd. And then, a club slot rally night at the end of the month, which we've just been doing for just over a year, which, again, we've had a few members who haven't raced for a little while who've come back because it's captured their imagination. So we've got a couple of new people that race with us who are only into rally, and a few people that come along because it's something new. And we do like to keep freshening things up it might only be every 10 years, but it's,
So, well,
it's,
on you go.
go on. Yeah, I mean, we try and keep things in many ways as stable as possible. Um, we're not the sort of club that gets you to buy 20 cars for 20 different classes, and then the following year says, okay, we're not going to run those anymore. Here's another 20 classes. No, I mean, that's a slight exaggeration. But some, we do have members at our club who've been, if you like, being burned in that sort of situation. And, to be honest, I think it can put people off. Not everyone's budgets are unlimited when it comes to sort of slot car racing. And I guess that's always because we focus in on families and that sort of family activity. We've always been very careful in terms of not pricing anybody out of our activities. So HO cars are more expensive than they were 15 years ago. Although you can pick up, there are some British-based manufacturers who sell chassis for £13-15 still. But yeah, we like to think that you can start by running club cars and using our club controllers. But if you wanted to buy a car or a couple of cars that will do all of our 3 HO classes, that you can do that for less than 50 quid.
Which is the price of a Scalextric car, yeah. Sorry.
Which is the price of a Scalextric car, and that will include, some decent racing tyres. We'll lend people a controller, or I've got a box of old controllers that I occasionally flog off for about a tenner each. And then you've got your season ticket for your HO nights, which is, I think, 30 quid, which gets you actually 13 nights. So that's not bad, is it, for a year's hobby?
It's incredible.
As an introduction. You can see whether you like it or not then, can't you?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely the ease of entry, if we were talking as a business, and I guess this is where this thing. So this is all voluntary. I mean, you're doing this for the love of it, which is fantastic. Yes. And I think all clubs require some key players to do that sort of thing, don't they? And I think and maybe that's why the club is, in my experience, so different from others, where you've got this variety of HO digital 1/32 plus. You're now doing the rallying, and there's that, as you say, this public venue, etc. So there's a whole kind of it's the ease of access, and you say you're making it very publicly known. The other thing I would play credit to, I think, is you don't just sort of you don't just put something out, say, here, the club's here, come along. You produce, I think, both physically but certainly digitally, a kind of a booklet that looks. It's easy to understand. It's well laid out. It's also got the calendar in it, and I think that's really fascinating. Again, when you look at something, say, "Am I going to commit to this?" and you can look and see, well, there's the dates for the whole year, and I can tell what's coming up when I want to do it. It just lends that ability to kind of plan in that you're going to do it, rather than being, oh yeah, it's Wednesday, I wonder what's going on at the club. So the effort that goes in behind all of that is good. It begs the question, which may be a very difficult one, if I feel free to go, I don't know. You clearly enjoy it, otherwise you wouldn't do it. Yeah. Is that the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't still be doing it. No. Yeah. And I have to say, for me, the biggest buzz is a big attendance with new people. It's a lot, any Wednesday night or all day Saturday, it is quite a lot of effort, before, during, and after. It's not just, it's not just me at all. I mean, there's people that help behind the scenes. I don't do all the HO race reports. HO, probably could just about run without me. But yeah, if it was just for all that work, if it was just half a dozen of us, I would go home and think, I don't think I want to do this. even though if I, even though I think even if I enjoyed the racing, I wouldn't necessarily as sort of the promoter or organizer. It's more than just the racing for me, and it's the success of the club. I mean, we had a sad event and a really happy event this week. A sad event in that one of our current racers passed away last month, and his wife came along to our race on Wednesday, and she wanted to come because she wanted to tell us how important, our club had been to him. And it's really nice to hear that because, us Brits don't always express such things. But it was really important for the family to say, he'd only been coming 18 months, but how important it had been to his life. And at the same event, we had a 4-year-old race for the first time. It wasn't just any old 4-year-old. He's actually the nephew of one of our earliest junior medal winners in 2010, 15 years ago. Right. So his granddad brought him along. The same guy, he was the father of one of our first top junior racers. So it's more than a club. It's more of a family in many ways, and that's so important. I think, even though people won't necessarily say it, and a few people might be a little bit embarrassed of me saying this, but it's. I think for lots of different reasons and for lots of different people in the club, he racing over the last 15 years has at times probably been a lifesaver in some ways, and that's a big responsibility. I have to say, it's a big responsibility.
No, it's it is, but you look as though you carry it relatively lightly. I have to say, you're always. I know there's a lot of paddling below the surface. I recognise that.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's great, and I don't think anyone could pay it a greater compliment than that. Actually, that's both in terms of that age range, plus the fact that someone who'd been, as you say, relatively for a short time, that meant so much to them. What? Thank you for that. I think it really does, and it's an interesting word too. The kind of soul of the club, if you like. I think there is definitely a kind of sense. There's more to it than just playing with toy cars. Yes. There's even more to it than just racing toy cars. For as much as superficially there's lap timers and there's and there's medals, it never feels like it matters that much whether you win or lose, and I think that's a great spirit, to be cherished. That one. Stepping away from the club, so
yes.
But has it spoiled slot cars for you, or do you still have a kind of? do you still enjoy them? Do you still look forward to the catalogue coming out at the beginning of the year?
I do. Yeah, I do. No, I have to say, over the last 15 years, it's drawn me closer, I think, to the whole world. I'm avoiding the use of the term hobby, but the whole world of slot cars.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, going to the Slot Car Festival, having been to a few of the Scalextric product launches. Raced at some big races, nationally. It hasn't just been the club. It's been, there's been some real high points, I would say, of my life over the last 15 years, really.
Yeah.
And a lot of money spent.
Don't think about that. That's all.
No.
It's an investment. Every single one of those cars was necessary.
Yes.
Have you got? Again, one of the other dangerous words to use for some people is the C word, which of course is collecting. Would you classify yourself in any way as a collector? And if so, what is it that you collect?
Well, I definitely will always say that I am not a collector.
No one is, but yes.
I think anybody coming into my house with half a brain cell will see that, yes, I collect stock cars, but I'm not a collector.
No, no.
So yeah, I've got a lot of cars from uh, back when I was a kid. I didn't have that many at the time. I'm trying to remember what catalogue it is. It's that catalogue with the Williams FW07s. It's the speed. It was the one with the cartoon in it,
I
Speed Racer.
I
Yes.
know, I know the one you mean. Yeah, I can't remember which year it was, but yeah, so late
So,
70s, early 80s, something.
yeah. So I think I've over the last 20, 25 years actually, I've bought quite a few of the cars that I always wanted
Yeah.
from that catalogue. And obviously swap meets are fantastic places to go. So is that a collection? I don't know. That's one. Um, a few years ago, I started buying quite a few rally cars,
Uh-huh.
and I would say, and moved some cars that I had bought previously out. Uh, so I would say most of the cars that I sort of have on display that I can look at when I'm bored, when I should be doing some work or whatever, are rally cars at the moment.
Okay.
Um,
I
and
take it you don't have a track. Do you have a track at home? Can you run cars at
I
home?
I did in my old house since I moved a couple of years ago. There really isn't the space.
Hmm.
But having said that, I go back to my roots and set up a track on the floor. And I've actually run a few rounds of proxy races. Some of the
Ah,
proxy races that were on Slot
I
Racer,
I
Slot
remember.
Racer online.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we haven't even touched on that one Slot Racer and on the Thingy magazine. But that's fine. That can be for
yeah,
another time. But that, yeah, I remember because I think in lockdown you were doing
yes,
Proxy Rally, weren't you? I think
yes,
which was one of the ones that kind of caught my attention that led to coming down to the club.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I was lucky. I put up a temporary track in the garage 20 odd years ago, and then about 12 years ago that evolved into turning the garage into a room permanently, so that
Excellent.
there's slot car track in it. So it's outside of, I spend a lot of time out in the slot shed, as I call it, because they've just been able to go out and flick a switch and run some cars and leave it all set.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic luxury, it really is. It's a dreadful mess, but it's a fantastic yeah, once you lose the discipline of having to put things away, it becomes
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
it's not good, but it's good
Yeah.
fun. Excellent. Annie, we're nearly out of time. Just a couple of minutes to go.
Yep.
So I'll kind of question there for building on that one. What is it? There's a show that hasn't yet gone out where Nick and I talk about things we'd really like, but we don't think anybody will ever make. So in terms of a model, so
Okay.
I'm dropping that one on you unannounced, which is a bit unkind. So I'll waffle for a second to give you a chance to think. So is there something that you've kind of harboured you would love to have a slot model of it?
There is a Lancia Group 6 LC1. I was so obsessed by this car when I
Yeah,
was a kid.
yeah.
I saw it race at Brands Hatch in the rain. I have here you won't be able to see it, but I made this when I was about 13 or 14. It's a cardboard body that fitted on a little Porsche chassis at the time of that car. It's a car that I've always been obsessed with, and I think someone might have produced it in resin once upon a time, but I'd love to see a manufacturer make it. I mean, NSR should do it. I mean, it would be, there's not a lot to the body, is there? It would be a really good little racer to thrash any Group C slotter.
I see what you mean about NSR. For those who don't know, I'll put a picture on for the YouTube. Those who don't know, it was called a Barchetta because it was
That's
an
right.
open top classic, but very unlike a sort of Chevrolet. Some of those things were very slab sided, being a Lancia, this thing was very curvy, to which one added even more beautiful curvy martini stripes. So it was gorgeous. But I think the challenge is it raced for 1 year, and there was only one livery, and so, but that qualifies in the kind of, but again, that's a good one for, hopefully someone. Well, if someone's listening, personally, I would go for slot it. I'd rather slot it because it would be a bit more scale accurate then. But that's
it would be, yes. This is true.
Okay.
And I'd probably buy it as well.
Yeah, well, me too.
Yeah.
Andy, thank you very much for that. It's been fascinating. We didn't even get on to talking about some of the other stuff that we thought we would do, so maybe do that another time. But thanks for your time.
It's been an absolute pleasure. It really has.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.